BIKRAM ADHIKARI, and I'm a AWS solution architect and a DevOps engineer at Bigfoot Software. So on a daily basis, what I do is that I consult with business and suggest how can they move to cloud. Especially, I'm focused towards AWS, and I help them architect their solution in the cloud, and also help them optimize their cost. And today, I'm going to give a talk on how you can scale your WordPress application. So, first of all, before moving to AWS, I want to give a little background. So, are you guys able to see this image? So what is this image? Can you say, like, what this particular image? Yeah. So after the invention of electricity and before we had the national grid for electricity, there was a time where if you had to start your own industry, so what you had to do was the electricity power plant you have to have in your own premise. So let's say if you want to start a noodle business, what you have to do was that you have to be concerned about the electricity production. So those could have been a steam engine or could have been any other things. So you have to create those infrastructure for creating electricity yourself. So the problem was that it was not scalable, and you have to dedicate upfront costs to develop that electricity production infrastructure. And later, what you did was that, as you all know, like now we have a national grid. So today, if you want to start an industry, you can just get a line from transmission line from electricity authority, and you don't have to worry about producing of electricity. You are just charged like how much you use. So exact similar to electricity, after the invention of internet and before this boom of e-commerce and other websites, so we're in similar position regarding computing. So have you heard of Amazon, right? The e-commerce site. Yeah. So the problem Amazon was facing was their innovation team was coming up with new product idea day by day, and when they had to implement their product, the problem was that they needed new computing, new servers, and from the initial point of the idea to coming up with a finished product, in the middle there was procurement of hardware. So they had to allocate certain space, and they had to buy those servers, and they have to install the required application in there. So in 2004, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, so he had an idea. So from each department in Amazon, what he did was that the procurement of the server was outsourced to a separate department. So let's say the book e-commerce site of Amazon, they wanted to have more space, like if they needed additional server. So they didn't go to the market and buy the server. What they did was they consulted to this department. So this new department that was created later it came to be known as Amazon Web Services. So after 2 years of internal use, in 2006, what they did was they created AWS as a product itself. And now what happened is AWS has become bigger than Amazon itself. So the yearly revenue done by Amazon compared to AWS has exceeded to that of Amazon itself. So this tells, sorry. So this tells us something about how every company is moving to AWS, and today I want to talk about 3 services that AWS has to offer that WordPress developer could use, and businesses and WordPress developer could use in their day-to-day, so that their website would scale. So first, I want to talk about Elastic Compute Cloud. So have you guys, how are you hosting your WordPress site right now? So are you using a shared host, or you are using VPS? What are you guys doing? Okay, so if you are using shared host, then you should be moving your WordPress site to a VPS. And if you are using a traditional service provider who just provide you like a server and nothing else, you should be moving those VPS to Amazon EC2. So the first level of migration that you have to do, where you can just move your VPS from one provider to another provider. So EC2 can be an interesting entry point for your application before moving to other services that Amazon has to offer. So it's the VPS. So in the simplest sense, it's the VPS offering that Amazon has to offer. Ocean or Linode, or Nishal was saying that he's using Vultr right now. So how is it better than using those traditional providers? Is that not just VPS, AWS has to offer a lot of other services around that VPS. Let's talk about auto scaling. So let's say that it's a festival season, and your website is getting high traffic. So in traditional like VPS provider, they don't have like how you can scale. You just have to like buy additional server and like move your site to those to that server of higher capacity. In EC2, what you can do is that, let's say you have a certain condition. Let's say like when my instance has CPU usage of greater than 50%, I want to spin up 2 more instances. That you can do with EC2, so that like when your site has heavy traffic, those additional servers are created for you, and your user has a seamless experience. And in addition to auto scaling, AWS has load balancing service. So what you can do is that, do you guys remember that Dora's had a sale recently, and their site crashed? Yeah, so they were not thinking like how much traffic they will be getting, and they were not planning on auto scaling, like how will they scale their site. So if they were wise and they were in EC2 or using EC2, what they could have done is that after certain memory uses, like let's say like with high traffic, they are like exceeding of, like let's say their server capacity, like 80% of memory was increasing. So what they could have done is that they could have added additional, like they could have created those conditions in auto scaling. What you can do is that, let's say my server memory exceeds 50%, or like the CPU usage of my current server exceeds 70%. What I want to do is that I need to replicate the server to multiples. Let's say you can assign arbitrary number. So they could have done that. And the most beautiful part about auto scaling is that once your server usage goes down, let's say like Dara's had a sale on 11/11, and on the 12th, that their usage would go down. Those additional servers that were created, those will be automatically destroyed. So Amazon would be taking care of that, so that you have a cost optimized solution, and when you need, you have those additional servers. So that's about EC2. And when it comes to WordPress, what they have is that this is the marketplace that they have, where you could go and buy a pre-baked image. So let's say there is one from, if you can read or not, there is one from Vietnamese. So what they have is that the initial WordPress setup, the MySQL setup, and those security plugins that you want, those are already pre-baked into, let's say, Ubuntu. And you can directly, with a single click, have that all set up. Like, if you have yourself manage WordPress, you know the hassle when you have to like install Apache, install PHP, and certain version of PHP will work, certain version won't work. Then you have to like uninstall those PHP, or sometimes you may have to like install 2 versions of PHP. So all those solutions are managed by this market provider. So some of these are free, some of these you have to pay for that additional support. But what you can do is that if you are planning on moving to EC2, you have this marketplace feature from where like you could install all those pre-baked, so that you don't have to worry about installing of Apache or PHP or Nginx, that sort of thing. So now I want to move to the second service. I'll be talking about 3 services, just 3 services. So this is a simple storage service. So have you guys heard of Dropbox? Yeah, so Dropbox, we host static content, right? Our images, media. So actually, the inside engine that Dropbox is using is Amazon S3 to host static files. So in WordPress, what you can do is that with just, so there are lots of library. So with just installing this plugin, what you can do is that all your static files are handled by Amazon S3. And some of the beauty of S3 is that your file is durable. So they guarantee like 99.999119. They have that durability guarantee, and they also guarantee the availability of your site. So what they do is that they just don't put your file in only one data center. So they have multiple data center, and they handle that replication. So let's say there is an earthquake in one data center and that was destroyed. Your data is guaranteed to be saved. So, and in some scenario, what you want to do is that you want to archive your data. Like, so let's say there are some data that you need to save due to government guidelines or that sort of thing, but you don't want to like pay high cost, pay the cost that you have to pay for S3. So what they have is, they have a service called Glacier, where those data that you may need in the future, but not right now, you don't have to worry about retrieving it frequently. What you can do is that you can host those data in Glacier. So right now, in Nepal, multiple banks are started using Glacier. So what they do is that the first week backup data they have in their own data center, and after that, there is the government regulation that you have to have the data for the like next 5 years. So what they are switching is that after 7-day data archival, their own data center, they are moving those data to Glacier, and when they need that data, the retrieval time is a bit high. Like it takes 4 or 5 hours to retrieve those data, but the cost, my example is again banks. So the cost that they have for tape drives in their own location and the cost comparison to Glacier was like almost like 10 times they had cost reduction when using S3. So I don't know like particular use case on WordPress where you have to like archive data, but definitely you could use that one. So these are the plugins that you could use just to deploy, just installing of this plugin, and what you have to do is that you have to authenticate your AWS credential with its plugin, and you can directly like host all your static files to WordPress. And the third service that I would like to discuss is RDS. So I was discussing with various WordPress developer like yesterday evening also and today. So what I learned was that they were hosting their WordPress application and database in the same server. So And later they said like when their website is hit by 503 error, then only that they are concerned like why I am getting this error. So are you guys aware about 503 error? Yeah, 503. Like when you exceed the capacity of server. So if you are a student of Pokhara University, during the result time, you may have seen that site with like 503 resource limit exceed. So hosting your WordPress site and DB together will lead you to that phase. Okay, so you have to like separate that. So Amazon offered this service called RDS, where various databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, and they even support Oracle. So what you can do is that you can move your database to their managed service. You are not given access to the OS layer. You are just given access to the database, and you can configure your database through Wizard. And all you need for your WordPress application is the hostname and the username and password, right? So what you can do is that you can use RDS to host your database, and what they give is that those credential details, and you can use that in your WordPress config file. So if database has been a bottleneck for scaling of your web application, this is the solution. And apart from that, what RDS offer is that automated backup of your DB. And let's say like you have a news site that is hosted in WordPress, and in news sites what you have is that you write less, but you read more from that database, right? So what you can do is that you could have read replication of your MySQL database. So there is one database where you can read and write, but there are like 3 or 4 other instances where read only happen, so your server takes less load. And here also, if you remember, I was talking about auto-scaling. You could use that, like for certain number of, like if your database is hit like certain number of times, exceeds certain number of times, you can automatically create multiple read replication. And also, the one I talked about static storage. So your database also is hosted in multiple availability zone, so multiple data center. So how can you start using RDS in your existing WordPress installation? So you just go to AWS RDS console, and what you can do is that you can create a new MySQL instance. Also, while talking about MySQL, AWS has like modified MySQL code and created a separate DB engine whose API is like almost similar to MySQL. So you can use, it's called Aurora, and it's like 10 times faster than MySQL and cost you 10 times less than MySQL. What Amazon has done is like it has modified the source code of MySQL so that this Aurora DB that I'm talking about is optimized to their hardware infrastructure. So just not MySQL, you could use Aurora DB for your WordPress. So I talked about these 3 services, and I was talking about like why cloud, and even that if you like, so what for me. So it is a little shameless plug from myself. So right now we are only consulting partner here in Nepal for AWS, and if you are a student, we have a AWS Educate program. So what you can do is that you could provide me your email, and just with your email, if you visit yourself AWS, if you have noticed or not, you have to provide a valid credit card, right? So under this education program, you don't have to provide a credit card. Under education program, what you can do is that we could provide you certain free credits per month. I guess like it's around now $75 per month for a year. So what you can do is that you could sign up to AWS and use those free services for that 75. You could use it as a playground. So that's for the student. And if you are a startup or if you are a business and you want to move your WordPress site to AWS, but like you don't want to invest upfront that financially, you you are still confused, like if you want to move to AWS, what you have is that what AWS offer is they have this concept called proof of concept. So they provide you certain credits, like let's say, depending upon your use case, let's say they provide you $1,000 free credit. You have to like fill up the form, like what sort of business you are doing, and like what you want to do, what you want to experiment with AWS, and they provide that free credits to you, and you could like start experimenting with AWS, and like 2 months, 3 months down the road, if you are excited about those services that AWS has to offer, you could move on. So that's it. So if you have any questions, or this is my handler on everywhere, like for like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or even GitHub. So I have this ADHIKARI handler everywhere, so you can contact me. Or if you guys have any question right now, I'm happy to answer.
Yes, can you explain us the benefit of EC2 in detail, so that as a WordPress developer, I can host it on AWS?
Okay, so EC2 could be an entry point for WordPress developer who are using other VPS, or like even shared hosting. If you are using shared hosting or other VPS like DigitalOcean or Linode or even Vultr, so if you are using EC2, could be a starting point. First thing is security, that I guess that I forgot to mention earlier. So Amazon has invested hugely on security and their customer care. So they have this service. You could buy the premium customer care, or with an ordinary customer care also, you get answer through email, through chat. So if you are experiencing downtime, who is like really rare with Amazon EC2, but with other provider, like we have heard use case where like your server was down on Friday and you try contacting them, but until Monday you didn't get any response from them. So in those weekend they don't respond. So that's not the case with Amazon. So so that could be a huge benefit apart from security. And where EC2 really shines is that not only moving your VPS, while only moving your VPS, the cost of AWS seems to be more. So what you really need to do is that other managed service that AWS has to offer, like for a static file, while you're storing in that server itself, you could move that to S3. And for your database, you could move that to a separate managed service. So using EC2, you will be like actually moving to a modern cloud infrastructure. Like just using VPS, it's like, so you have on-premise, like on-premise data center. So it's just like using traditional server, where in the same VPC, in the same VPS, you have all those services hosted. Whereas in EC2, you could like decouple all those components of your application and just host your application server. The PHP side, the WordPress, core WordPress site would be hosted in that EC2. All your other services, like let's say like there is a use case for like there is a use case where you could use a microservice. So what you can do is that you could decouple that component from your WordPress site and host that to a separate server, like AWS has offering, or AWS Lambda. You could use that service. So using EC2, the main benefit of using EC2 is that you are moving to true cloud, and with AWS security and AWS support, and decoupling of those components of your site, that I think would be the greatest advantage of using EC2.